Louisiana. They're saying a wealthy portion of Baton Rouge will split off and incorporate its own city. It's Ricky Rich with Black Primacy. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.
Our The Factor Uncensored, the headlines from the national media are eye-grabbing at best. Wealthy white Louisiana residents split from Baton Rouge to form their own city. But is race a real issue at the core of this municipal secession? The 86,000 residents who are forming their own city in St. George, Louisiana, say it's about better schools for their children and better city services. Baton Rouge is more than 50% black, and those who are against a split say the city will be hurt by this action to create a new city, which was approved by the Louisiana State Supreme Court last Friday after a 5-year-long battle. And joining us on The Factor Uncensored tonight, we have with us Eugene Collins, who's the former president of the NAACP in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Eugene, you guys have quite a situation there with St. George, the community now breaking off, becoming its own city after the Louisiana Supreme Court approved it.
The problem that I'm already kind of seeing, or that's apparent before they even get into this topic, is if it's the wealthy that are leaving and creating their own city, that's gonna lead, or their own area, I guess. That's gonna leave Baton Rouge to just fall apart, like, and become non-existent. I get it. I'm sure what they're ultimately trying to do is to separate their property, separate their school districts, separate all of that so that their investments in themselves and in their children and in their real estate and land will not be held back by the surrounding area. So once they change their zip code and they put up walls, sort of in a sense, all of their investments will move up in relative to their incomes and their status and everything else. So, which is good for them, but the downside to that is those struggling black folks that have lived in that area forever, their investments are just going to plummet. And so I can see how this can be a problem for the city of Baton Rouge. It's probably going to get pretty ugly. It's probably going to get pretty ugly out there.
So what do you think this will do to the city of Baton Rouge?
It's confusing, right? When you look at it just on the surface, there's so many unknowns to the city of Baton Rouge. So already what it has done is severely confuse the residents. And the biggest concern that I've seen so far is about where do people send their kids to school, right? Because you have a ton of folks that live in that area that if a new school district is established over the next 2 years, I mean, you got some legacy things, the folks that might have went to some of the inner city Baton schools that now maybe have to go to school in St. George, and those families are up in the air. So what is already caused, in my opinion, is severe confusion. And I think some of the dangers of it futuristically is you continue to further divide an already highly racially charged area. And that just can't be good for the city of Baton Rouge overall and over time. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge that these folks are organized. They went out and got the votes. They raised money to continue their legal battles. And they went through a democratic process to get this city established, for which, you know, I understand democracy and I understand that's the way that government.
I think black folks need to take note on how this was done. think we need to do the same. I think we need to do the same, especially those of those in the wealthy category. We need to do the same. You know, build out our own communities. Um, we do need to get out of the quote unquote hood areas and build our own thriving, wealthy communities. Um, because, like I mentioned, your investment goes a much further when everyone in the area um, has something at stake. And it sounds good to go be, I guess, raised in the hood and then go back and give back to the hood. Sounds good, but I think a better I think a better move for black folks is to create our own. Wealthy black folks create our own space, uh, create our own city, and take care of it, and our own school districts. I think we need to take note. If anything, we need to take note off of this.
It's supposed to work, but at the same time, it's a dangerous notion, I believe, for the city of Baton Rouge to split at any level with the current environment that we have.
And of course, for those who are wondering, how did we get here? You look at the New York Post, you look at the Daily Mail, and the headlines show mainly white, wealthy community pulls out of Baton Rouge, starting their own city. Would that be accurate? And what is the reasoning behind pulling out of Baton Rouge from your perspective and what you know?
Well, when you look at the basis of what they have publicly said about their argument to separate from the city of Baton Rouge, it's been based around better schools, right? Which in itself, on its face, doesn't make a ton of sense, right? Because you have some people that have supported this movement that have held a hold seats on our school board, right? And it's supposed to be their job to improve schools. So that notion in itself is kind of contradictory to what we see on his face. Not to mention, when you look at the makeup of the organizers and you don't have any people of color amongst them, it's hard not to make the assumption that this is something that might be racially driven. But at the same time, I have to be honest and say that the rhetoric, the narrative that they have pushed has been about better schools. But I don't see how separating our district separating the school district can create better schools.
But right now, the Supreme Court has only approved the city, creating a city. You're not at a school district yet. And much of this still may be down the road in building the process.
Much of it may be down the road, but there are already House bills that's been put forth to bring about the things that are necessary and needed to ensure that this city gets its own school district. Not to mention that the various things that have been done to improve the district in that region already. This city is paid for, right? And not to mention when you look at how they're plan on supporting themselves, it's pulling a lot of the resources and the tax bases from Baton Rouge, stuff that has been used to keep our city stable, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I was saying at the beginning was, um, a lot of the resources are going to leave Baton Rouge. So what's going to be left? If a majority of the wealth is leaving the area, um, what's going to be what's going to be left? You pull out all of the resources. So you know certain certain a certain demographic is going to struggle immediately, education wise, business wise, uh, city funding wise, all of these areas that I'll just say black folks are in out there in Baton Rouge are going to be highly affected. They were asking if it was racially motivated. I think so on the surface, obviously, but I think it was d- more easily done because um, there aren't enough wealthy African Americans out there um, to even show up. I'm sure there are some wealthy African Americans that are out there and they're pushing this as well, but there's not enough of them. It's probably like a 0.5%. So, um, yeah, Baton Rouge is definitely gonna crumble over this.
So
I think Sharon Weston Broom, the mayor there, said the city of Baton Rouge could lose at least $46 million annually as a result of this.
at least and probably more, right?
I think
So
more.
when you take all that into account, this is going to hurt the underserved. This is going to be
Absolutely.
paid for on the backs of poor black folks, right? Because when you think about Baton Rouge, people always assume that folks that look like me that live in certain communities don't pay taxes. That's very far from the truth. We are property owners where everything else in our tax dollars go towards making this city a stable place to live. And when you do something like this, you put all of that in jeopardy, right? And it continually affects people that look like me in certain communities. And that's sometimes what folks don't understand, even the folks that look like me, right? Because my kids, they're gonna be fine, right? I'm gonna be fine. I'm an educated black man that makes a certain income level, right? But it's the folks that are just on that line, right? That live in certain communities that are just on that line, they're going to feel the brunt of this impact. And largely, man, they don't even understand what's going on because of the information that's rolled out, which is really the rough part.
All right, Eugene Collins, former president of the NAACP in Baton Rouge, we appreciate your time and thank you for bringing us the latest and the details on this out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thank you, sir. Now,
Yeah, I like what he was saying at the end as well. It's there's gonna be a section of people who are like he said he's gonna be fine, which he probably will be, but it's still going to affect him from an investment perspective. Um, if he owns a house, if it stays in the Baton Rouge uh, section and it's not part of the city that's being broken off, or the area that's being broken off, his investment is going to eh, slow down tremendously. He would be better off selling his house and moving over to the area if he's welcomed. you know um and then like you said, those who are just barely at the line and they probably still own property and still pay their taxes into the city, they're gonna feel it just as hard or harder than him. And so everybody's going to look up. Everybody that's on the Baton Rouge side is going to look up, and they're going to see that their school system has declined dramatically because the funding is not there anymore. Their houses aren't appreciating as much, and just the overall city care is going to decline dramatically. So this is not a this is not good. I can understand it on both ends. I can understand why these people are wanting to leave or create their own, but I can understand the pushback as well. So you all let me know what you think. This is an interesting topic. Um, I think we as African Americans need to take note and do the same and create our own areas. Uh, our own regulations, our own schooling system. But let me know what you guys think. This is an interesting story. It's Ricky Rich for Black Primacy. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.